So maybe we take advantage of a few minutes that they are changing the setup. It was very interesting. Frankly, what I was listening, it was impressed. I was impressed by the quality of the presentation, but my takeaway of these three introductions on the safe system approach is that we really need to work together. We must be able to master the principles of shared responsibility, first of all, safe infrastructure, education, and of course, in the end, we need a cultural change in order to be able to make every ride a safe ride. We need the involvement and the efforts of every actors. Now we turn on a safe users panel, and I'm very pleased and honored to have 4 high-level representatives of different institutions and associations. We will try to give an overview on the users of motorcyclists and their feeling towards the safe system approach, of course. Then we will go to the post-license training, an example from Spain, the Dirección General de Tráfico. Then we will also take a closer look on the airbag clothes, airbag vest for motorcyclists. Is a new, well, not very new, but a brand new protective equipment that is coming on the market. And then we will listen a little bit on the latest development on the standards regarding protective equipment. So I'm pleased to call from the International Motorcycle Federation, Christopher Hodder, that is the public affairs manager. He has an experience of working as a lobbyist for the motorcycle sector more than 17 years. He began working for the British Motorcycle Federation, representing riders to the UK and EU governments, and then he started to volunteer for the International Motorcycle Federation. He worked also in 2014 for the UK motorcycle industry, working on all technical and legislative issues ranging from vehicle type approval and personal protective equipment before moving to work full-time for the International Motorcycle Federation. He does not compete, but he rides an Harley-Davidson 750 cc. Then we move from Montserrat Pérez López, that is the Deputy Director of Training and Education for the Directorate General for Transportation. Since 2009, hold various positions in provincial headquarters and central services for the Central Traffic Headquarters, among others. She also holds the position of Technical Advisor of the Superior of Traffic, Road Safety and Sustainable Mobility, and the position of Deputy Assistant Director of Road Training since October 2020. Now she holds the post of Deputy Director of Training and Road Safety Education since January 2024. I'm also pleased to call the university, the academia. So Raúl Aranda is a recognized researcher of the University of Munich. Please, Raúl. With a solid experience in the fields of impact and biomechanics, human modeling, and crash simulation. He graduated in mechanical engineering from the University of Zaragoza, and then he obtained a doctoral degree from the University of Munich, where he currently continues his research activity. Throughout his career, he has actively participated in various research projects related to motorcyclist safety, specializing in the analysis of motorcyclist airbag protectors. As last, we call Federico Vitale from the Italian Association of Motorcycle Manufacturers, ANCMA. After 10 years working for public affairs in Piaggio Group and some stints in the automotive sectors, in 2012, he joined Confindustria ACMA, where he is managing the international regulatory affairs, representing the Italian manufacturer in several international associations and institutions. Now, we have a very diverse, I would like to say, group of panelists coming from the association, coming from the manufacturer, the academia, and of course the regulatory body. I would like to start with Chris, that will tell us a little bit about the point of view of the users of motorcyclists. You represent the International Motorcycle Federation, 121 countries affiliated, tell us a little bit what the FIM is doing on this sector.
Okay. So thank you, Damiano. So this will be about the user's point of view with regards to motorcycle safety. So quickly about what the FIM, I realize some of you probably know what the FIM is, but maybe some of you don't. The FIM is a federation of organizations, national organizations around 121 countries across the world, spread out over 6 continents. We have been around for 120 years, so this is our 120th anniversary this year. This is why we've got a lovely new logo up in the corner there. About the FIM itself, so we describe ourselves as the this is from our website, by the way. Describe ourselves as the governing body for motorcycle sport and the global advocate for motorcycling. So the sports side is obviously very well known, but the advocate, we speak on behalf of motorcyclists around the world. We promote motorcycling. We basically go around telling everybody that motorcycles are great. Not always a welcome message, but we like to say it anyway. Just in terms of the ethical aspect, because obviously we do organize competitions on motorcycles, we take health and safety very seriously and environmental impacts very seriously. And that's not just on the sports side. We also try to bring that practice of health and safety to the other aspects of our activities, including, as we're talking about today, road safety. So what is it that the motorcyclists actually want? Well, in terms of our own safety, well, the main thing is really high quality fun training. And the fun bit is the key bit. The quality bit, obviously, we want high quality training, but the fun is important because we're going to be paying for it most of the time. So if it's not fun, we're not going to do it. There is plenty of training out there, and there's plenty of fun training out there. So it's a commercial product. It's one of the things we need to think about. Second on this list is good quality clothing. So this is clothing that not just protects you when you have an accident, but clothing that keeps you dry when it's rain, keeps you warm when it's cold, and keeps you cool when it's hot. And not too much to ask for one piece of clothing, I'm sure. And also, we want the technology. We want the traction control, anything that makes the fun of riding a little bit more fun. We want the ABS, just in case for those serious circumstances. Sometimes we're a little bit skeptical about whether it's good, whether it's going to work when we want it to do, whether we could do it better. But the reality is, most of the time, if you give us the choice, and it's not a big expense, then we'll probably buy it. What else do we want? Well, nice weather. Or everybody wants nice weather when they go for a ride. We want a bike that starts first time. If anybody ever had an old motorcycle, you know the joy of coming down, you've got all your gear on, you go to the garage, you wheel the bike outside, you press the button, and nothing happens. Nobody enjoys that. But we also want a nice smooth road surface, potholes, imperfections, bumps, gravel on the road. These are all things that they're not fun, they ruin the ride, and also they're now actually very dangerous. We also want interesting curves. Nobody wants a straight road. Not even Americans. Actually, we like roads that have corners in them, nice corners. And we want considerate other road users. We want the other people on the road to be aware that we're there, move out, give us space, don't pull out in front of us. If they're Dutch and they're in the mountains, not be carrying a caravan or taking up loads of road space, as they all do. And that's basically what we want. Pretty simple. However, this is the European view. This is 5% of the problem, as we heard from Maria yesterday. This is not the global view of road safety. This is just a very specific area where we want to make small improvements that might have a good impact for some people. In the rest of the world, motorcycles are for transport. And as we hear, in places like Colombia, they're also increasingly for work. So we're not just talking about road safety, now we're also talking about workplace safety. And the responsibilities there are different. So most of us who have an employer will say that the employer is responsible for our safety when we're at work. But in reality, a lot of these people are working for themselves and they're responsible for their own safety. And this is where it gets complicated. But those riders are not any different. They still want nice clothing, and they still want, all those things I was talking about earlier, nice weather and nice curves. But the requirements are different. So now we're not just talking about top quality protective clothing, it also has to be affordable. And when we're talking about basic training, this is not just, training for fun training that we're going to do because, we want to be a bit better at riding motorcycles. In a lot of cases, this is the very basics. And it's not just for them, it's for the other users on the road too. Because in many countries in the world, if you can afford the vehicle, then you're allowed to drive it. It doesn't matter what license you've got or anything like that. The realities are very different. Part of that is reliable enforcement. So in many countries in the world, the enforcement mechanisms just don't work in practice. I mean, most countries in the world have some kind of helmet law, but you'd only have to go to quite a few countries to see that it's not operating in practice. And that's because enforcement isn't there. And that's not just enforcement for the users, that's enforcement for everybody on the road again. And these are not issues of rider safety, and specifically, these are issues of civil society. Many countries in the world, you can see people take children on motorcycles, and they might be interested in their own safety because they've got a helmet, but they have to take their kids to school or to work with them in some cases. So child seats and child clothing and all those little things that there are realities. In other cases, it's basic road standards. So whereas we might want a perfectly paved road, in a lot of countries they don't have paved roads, or if they do, they're built very quickly and very cheaply. And they might look brilliant for 2 months, and then the winter comes, and the trucks are driving on it, and all of a sudden you've got massive holes, and sometimes the roads collapse completely. So making sure that those roads are safe and usable. And a key one there is emergency healthcare. A lot of places in the world, the road safety issue is not necessarily just that the roads are dangerous or the vehicles are dangerous. It's the fact that if you do have an injury, you might not get seen. You have horror stories of whole wards in hospitals that are taken up by injured motorcyclists, and frankly, there's nobody able to take care of them. Or in other countries, there's cultural problems where if you are near an accident, then you might get blamed for the accident. So everybody just runs away. And then you've got a different story of somebody lying there prone, dying, and nobody wanting to help them. And then, just to be clear, as we heard yesterday, there are people in these countries who campaign on these issues locally. They are there on the ground saying, we need some help, can you help us? You've got associations of what they call boda riders in places like Kenya, where they form mutual assistance groups. So they support each other if they get injured. They campaign locally for safer roads, safer conditions, and in some cases, some regulation. And they're there, and they need support from the wider community. We heard yesterday about the Faixa Azul in Sao Paulo, and a lot of those campaigns for those sorts of ideas of roads are actually come from courier riders in the city who want help, who want safer roads. And then finally, the conclusion is really support the riders. We're there, we're campaigning, we want help on issues. What can you do to help us? We're not asking for a lot of complicated things in a lot of cases, we just want some basic stuff. So, yeah, that's it really. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chris, for this short introduction, but complete. I would like also to dwell a little bit into what you said, linking with the previous presentation that we're speaking about the human factor and the measures that are addressing the human factor. Do you see these measures of human factor that improve rider safety, or do you think that there are also other factors that should be taken into account in order to improve rider safety?
I think most riders in Europe in particular get some kind of training, and in many cases they're willing to do more training, perhaps, as long as it's fun, as I said. But I think in the rest of the world, yes, the training needs to be given more widely. It needs to be specific to the type of use that they're using. So training on carrying children as passengers, training on working on a motorcycle, training on, for other road users about how to interact with motorcycles. A lot of the training that we have in Europe in particular focuses on how to ride a motorcycle, and the training for drivers focuses on how to drive a car. But it doesn't necessarily focus on training how to interact together, and I think those are important factors.
Thank you very much, Chris. And then if I quote the Brazilian Minister of Transport last year at the ITF in Leipzig, he said, you know, you're talking about road safety in my country, I need to talk about the road before starting to talk about road safety, because first of all, I need a safe infrastructure before talking about who is on the road. So this dichotomy from different point of view from Europe and other part of the world really need to be at the base of our discussion. Now we move to the Dirección General de Transport. Montserrat Pérez, please tell us a little bit about the post-license training for motorcyclists that you are planning.
Bueno, buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everyone. I've decided to do my presentation in Spanish. I only have 10 minutes and I don't want the bell to ring, so I will feel freer to do it in Spanish. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for Anesdor and Ibercaja and my colleagues from the Observatory of the DGT, all the work and the effort they've put into organizing this meeting, this international conference in this lovely setting. The strategy 2030 for road safety establishes what the different policies will be, and there are 9 areas. One of them, people who are trained and capable. Yesterday, our general director said that the roadmap to be developed in the area of education and training, and which is inside this area, it has been divided in 2 functions. On the one hand, those things that we're going to develop, which is training before doing your driving exam, and on the other hand, training after getting the driving license. So the idea is to encourage and to guarantee training of people who have a driving license. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to mention a specific project that we're carrying out in the DGT. This is driving for safety driving for motorcycles and mopeds. These courses have been designed by the working group within the DGT. And within this group, we saw what the content was going to be. We together worked on the content, the guidelines, and they are volunteer courses. People can attend voluntarily. It will give 2 points to those people who attend them successfully if they comply with certain requirements. There must be a driver with a positive number of points, and the maximum amount of points you can get is 15. But what is the objective of these courses? The objective is to continue to train the drivers as a prevention of risks so that we can avoid accidents. During a long time in Spain, there have been safe driving courses given by different organizations, associations, insurance companies, and throughout the years they have been gained prestige and acknowledgement by society. So it's nothing new what we're doing, but from the DGT, what we have done is design specifically the content of these courses. And it means that people can gain 2 points in the driving license. So we have developed a quality certification system for these courses. This system has been developed through an accreditation scheme together with ENA, the National Accreditation Authority. And it is done according to the evaluation of conformity. It's a standard that indicates what kind of requirements a certification organization can certify different products, activities, services, etc. This scheme for accreditation, as I was saying, is made up of 2 main parts. It establishes the requirements of the organizations that offer training and certify those courses, and it collects all the content, requirements, etc., that those courses must meet. The requirements for a certifying body. First of all, it must be impartial and independent. When carrying out the activities, when having contracts with different trainees, etc., there are personal requirements. People, as regards training and experience, there are requirements, there are material requirements, and there are requirements concerning the structure of the organization, of the certifying organization. This organization that issues the certificates must be responsible for its actions, etc. So this document, this accreditation scheme, is a public document. You can find it in the DGT website and ENAC website. It is a living document, working document that changes constantly because it has the content of the courses. This is a draft. We have a draft at the moment because the introduction of these courses requires the approval of the ministry, so it is not a final document yet. What are the requirements to do these courses, which will train these drivers and will give them 2 points? Well, the first thing we did was to set up 2 types of courses, one for urban roads and one for the normal roads. Minimum duration is 6 hours. There are a number of requirements for the trainers, for the facilities, and for the content. The content is very detailed, and how it is organized and given in the course is also very detailed. In the case of safe and efficient driving courses on urban roads, we have theory training. It lasts about 1 hour 15 minutes. Things like new urban mobility, risk elements, and other content is included. For example, equipment. It has an aspect about, it has elements of awareness raising. So it's not only about being able to drive your motorcycle, but there are also values that must be reflected in the training. How to share the road, how to be respectful towards other drivers and take them into account, etc. All of that is very, very detailed in this draft document. And then we have practical training divided in 2 parts. Training that happens in a closed circuit, which are for skills training. In urban areas, we do a number of stationary maneuvers, which should prove that people are agile, they're good, they have good driving skills, etc. The main difference with other courses that existed before is as follows. In our courses, our DGT courses, it is compulsory to have training in open roads. In the urban courses for urban roads, there's a minimum. The minimum duration of the course is 2 hours, and the driving in open roads is 1.5 hours. We have another half hour for all the necessary stops, and so that the trainer can give all the indications or clarifications or explanations necessary to the trainee during the training. The itinerary, it has been previously predetermined, designed as part of the course, and it includes different elements so that we can properly train the driver. we also have 30 minutes for conclusions, which will look at the practical elements and also the theoretical elements, and it will close the course. The courses for conventional roads have the same structure. The same time is allocated for the training, a minimum of 1 hour 15 minutes. But in this case, we look at risk factors in conventional roads and other elements that we consider necessary for this type of driving. The difference with the previous course in the practical training is that the times are different. Here, the duration is shorter on the road as regards maneuvers for the skills, driving skills. Agility and balance and braking exercises are included. I included in the previous one as well, but here they last less. And then we look at, in open roads, we look at curves and counter curves, etc. We have established itinerary and what elements must be part of that itinerary are predetermined and very well specified in the course. There's time allocated for rest as well, and time for indications, clarifications, and any explanations necessary the trainer must give to the trainee. And then there's 30 minutes for conclusions. As I was saying, these are drafts at the moment. We're waiting for the ministerial approval. We hope it happens as soon as possible. I hope it's interesting for you. Summarizing these courses in 10 minutes is not easy. The content is very wide and much more detailed than that. And before the ring bells, if you want, I do want to remind you that training and education are basic pillars of road safety. Road safety is the responsibility of all of us. We said that yesterday, but I think we must remember that constantly. The objective is saving lives. The challenge we face is very, very important. And in order to reach that aim of zero deaths, we have to work together. And administrators, civil society, and all of us have a bit of responsibility. I am happy to be here and happy to see that this international conference is pushing this agenda. Thank you very much. I'm at your disposal for any clarifications or questions, and I hope you enjoy my presentation.
Muchas gracias, Montserrat.
Thank you very much, Montserrat. Yesterday, the director from DGT was saying that the main challenge is accidents on the road in Spain. So how could I ask now the question? How can we reach a balance between road training and training in cities in the program that you just presented? How can we reach that balance between the two different ways of driving? Well, as we saw, the two courses have the same structure. One of the things I couldn't explain in the presentation because, well, obviously those courses are much more detailed, and the design is for both cities and roads, and this is also related to the driving license category. Of course, in the urban courses, those are related to A1 and A2 courses. However, if we go to a conventional road, we will be talking about bigger motorcycles and a driving license. For me, there is something crucial here. When you already have a driving license, you need also the theoretical training. Yesterday, we talked about the risk perception, the need for the driver to anticipate to the risks. And here we really need to make a distinction because it won't be the same driving in the road or in the streets. The risks that we face are different. That's why we need to design a course specifically. The same happens to maneuvers. the maneuvers will be entirely different, whether it is for the road or for the street. And the main basis and the main difference in the two courses is the circulation in open roads. In this sense, it is key to comply with the current itinerary, because this will provide the driver with the necessary skills to avoid car accidents and general accidents.
Available, this course will be linked with the European training quality level proposed by us and the FIM, but let's see in the future. Now I would like to pass the floor to Raúl Aranda from the University of Munich, that will tell us a little bit which safety benefit can airbag clothes deliver. We know that as of today we have only one mechanical type of airbag that is homologated. So let's see what is happening in the next future.
Buenos días a todos, un placer saludarles.
Good morning, everyone.
I'm researcher at the University of Munich, Department of the Biomechanics and Action Analysis. Some factors like their poor visibility, their inherent instability, and especially their limited structural protection, make power two-wheelers one of the most dangerous modes of transportation, which in the end, it is translated in a higher risk of fatal accident. Looking at some statistics, in the motorcyclists and moped users accounted the 28% of all world traffic accidents in 2018, the 70% in the European Union. If we get a little closer, only in Germany, at the same year, 619 riders died, and more than 10,000 were severely injured. Focusing on the thorax is the fourth most frequent body region injured, but present the highest rate of MIS3 plus injuries, more than 50%. Another study, a posterior study on the same direction, reported that more than 50% of the AIS4 plus injuries were located at the thorax. For those who are not familiarized with the AIS code, an AIS4 plus injury means a severe, a critical, or a fatal injury. Well, to protect the thorax, the main proposal from the passive safety perspective is the use of personal protective equipment, especially the use of an airbag protector. So what is an airbag protector for motorcyclists? In a very simple way, an airbag protector for motorcyclists is an inflatable system usually integrated in a jacket or a vest, which will be electronically or mechanically activated in case of accident. Most of the airbags available today on the market are certified according to the requirements of the standard EN 221-4 or 5. This standard evaluates the airbag protection performance of the airbag through an impact force attenuation test. In this test, a 5-kilogram striker hits the airbag placed over a steel anvil at an impact speed of 4.5 meters per second, around 16 kilometers per hour. Depending on the transmitted force measured by the load cell placed under the anvil, the airbag will be classified in level 1 or level 2 of protection. However, some doubts have emerged about the suitability of this test to evaluate the protective performance of the airbag alone. Firstly, it's a test that presents low biofidelity. The test reproduces an impact between two rigid bodies. But in the reality, it happens an impact between a deformable body, which is the human body, and a rigid body. So the human body is not represented in this test. Secondly, it presents a low correspondency with the reality. The level of impact energy analyzed in this test is significantly less with those one presented in a motorcycle accident. Thirdly, the test presents some limitations to distinguish the optimal thickness-pressure combination. And finally, the scientific background of the impact force threshold values is completely unknown. So, due to these limitations, two questions come automatically. How much protection could a motorcycle airbag offer in a realistic impact scenario? How should a testing procedure for a more comprehensive assessment of the thorax airbag be designed? What kind of criteria should this procedure consider? To respond to the first question, we conduct a study based on numerical simulations. As a representation of the human body, we use a finite element human body model. To define a real accident impact scenario, we analyze accident data and we define the impact conditions in terms of impact velocity and radius of the impact object. We validated a finite element airbag model after testing a commercial airbag. And finally, we base our analysis of the protection performance of the airbag into biomechanical criteria. Firstly, we conducted a strain-based analysis, which was used to determine the number of rib fractures after the impact. Secondly, we measured the thorax compression, which, according to the compression criterion, is an indicator of the injury severity. Let's see some results. For an impact against an horizontal object at an impact velocity of 30 kilometers per hour, the airbag will be able to reduce the thorax compression from the 97 millimeters to 78 millimeters, reducing also the injury severity. A positive effect of the airbag is also observed by the strain-based analysis, being the airbag able to reduce the number of rib fractures from 6 to 0 in this case. However, if we look at the same impact scenario, but in this case at an impact velocity of 60 kilometers per hour, no significant influence of the airbag was observed. Looking at the thorax compression, similar values were obtained in both cases, with and without airbag. And in the end, the injury severity will be the same. Looking at the strain-based analysis, despite the airbag, a lot of rib fractures will be obtained. We've seen in the numerical study how different is the standard procedure test from a real accident scenario. So how should be a better procedure for the analysis of the protection performance of a thorax airbag? Well, the test should be more realistic. That means that it should be closer to an accident impact scenario. It should be also more biophilic. The human body, or at least the thorax of the human body, should be represented. So we need a human surrogate. And thirdly, the airbag protection, the evaluation of the airbag protection should be based on biomechanical criteria. Some of the last proposals and researchers are going in this direction. They are obtaining a more realistic impact scenario basically by increasing the impact energy. How? Increasing the impact mass and the impact velocity. They are also obtaining a more biophilic test, including the hybrid 3 dummy, or at least the hybrid 3 dummy thorax. The hybrid 3 dummy is an anthropometric test device extensively used in the automotive field, and it is equipped with a transducer which permits to measure the thorax compression during an impact. This point is important because with the measurement of the thorax compression and the posterior calculation of the viscous response, we can obtain an estimation of the skeletal and soft tissue injury severity. With this calculation, we could create or elaborate a system who permits to analyze and classify the airbags depending on their probability of injury risk. To summarize and conclude, the protection performance of an airbag for motorcyclists depends extremely on the impact velocity. An airbag could effectively provide protection up to 30 kilometers per hour of impact speed. However, no significant protection was offered for high impact velocities. The doubts emerged about the current standard procedure to evaluate the protection performance of thorax airbags motivates the research of a new test procedure. This test procedure should consider realistic impact conditions, should include a human surrogate, and should base the protection performance evaluation on biomechanical criteria. Some reference if you want to check for more information. And thank you very much for your attention. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to contact me.
Thank you very much, Raúl. I don't want to be negative, but if we put together what we heard yesterday from the General Director of the Dirección General de Traffic, that the main point are the accident on the carretera, so I imagine higher than 30 kilometers per hour. And your conclusion today, I ask the question, what are needed for the airbag? Because if the highest number of accidents happen on a highest speed of 30 kilometers per hour, and we see that they are not useful, so why are we investing on this tool? It's a provocation rather than a question.
Yeah, actually, well, if I don't have a question. Of course, we need to investigate for another technical solution. But with current technology, yeah, with the current airbags, we are limited to this, let's say, low impact speed. But yes, maybe the solution will be not only to rely on the airbag. It could be a combination from different factors. If it is possible to reduce the impact speeds, maybe the airbag will have a chance to play an important role in the accident.
Thank you, Raúl. And another point is a consideration. As FIM, we sanction the motorcycle sport, and it is 5 years, this year, 50 years, that we put compulsory airbag vest in the top competition, MotoGP. 3 years ago also on the cross-country rally. The manufacturers that are producing these airbag vests, I think they are into the industry, and they are, do they share their data? Do they provide insights to the academia, to the research, in order to develop an airbag that can be used on the road? Again, another provocation. I know that it's very difficult.
It's a nice provocation.
But if we look at your slide saying up to 30 kilometers per hour, let's not speak about MotoGP, let's speak about cross-country rally. They go 140, 150, 160 kilometers per hour.
Well, responding to your answer, the direct answer is no. Yeah, if you call, well, the results that I presented, we analyzed an airbag, and it was because a project we started with the German Association of Insurance. And yeah, they asked us about, hey, how good protection could an airbag provide? And yeah, we tested an airbag, but we bought some exemplars of the airbag, some units, but we don't tell about them to the manufacturer. My experience in a lot of research projects, working with all of them, researchers, test institutions, manufacturers, yeah, when you are telling them, hey, do you want to try something new, to test in a different way from the standard, yeah, they are a little bit afraid, because yeah, they are afraid about, yeah, maybe my device will not obtain good results, will not provide the protection that everyone is expecting. So, yeah, that's
it's a long way, let's say, a long way. Let's hope to be there. Thank you very much, Raúl. We conclude this panel with Federico Vitale, that will update us on the latest standards on personal protective equipment. Federico.
Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me to this very important conference. And I would like to link my presentation. We will do a very short journey within the protective clothing issue. The holistic approach is the basis of this conference, and I think that we all agree that it's a very complex puzzle Protective gears and clothing is one piece of this puzzle, very important, of course. But let's agree on what does protective mean in practice. Protection comes from, means to be safe, to be functional, and to be comfortable. These are very important principles that we will see also in the prosecution of my presentation. This is in order to mitigate the risk, not to eliminate, of course, the risk for serious injuries. But how to ensure that the protective clothing that are on the market provide for a high level of safety protection for the final consumers? Of course, the main pillar is the so-called PPE regulation, is the 2016 425, which was established middle of 2018. That was a real milestone, a very important milestone for the legislation in Europe, because those three basic elements were improved compared to the previous directive. We're talking about how to assess the conformity, bring it to the CE marking. We established the presumption of conformity based on compliance with the existing harmonized standards available. And of course, another important pillar is the market surveillance, which is in the hands of the marketing and the national authorities. I will come up later on these points. So the main pillar is this regulation, and I would like to draw your attention on some of the basic principles and the key design principles that are at the basis of each and every standard when we talk about protective clothing. The basic principle which has changed with this regulation is the following. The protective gear must provide adequate protection against the risk against which it is intended to protect and be designed, not against all the possible risk encountered. This is one of the key points that we have to bear in mind. Other key design principles are the ergonomics. So we need to ensure dexterity when we dress a clothing, because we need to be able to move our body. And ergonomics is one of the key issues. Classes of protection. Let's read all together what the regulation says, because it's at the basis of our legislation for motorcycle clothing. The principle around the classes of protection says that where different foreseeable conditions of use are such that several levels of the same risk can be distinguished, appropriate classes of protection must be taken into account. And this is one of the bases for, this happens also in the field of motorcycle clothing. Other important key design principles are innocuousness, comfort, lightness, and strength. So on the basis of these basic principles, here we have a snapshot of the current standards of motorcycle protective clothing. Most of them are under revision, currently under revision, because as you may know, of course, there is a systematic review. At least every 5 years, all the standards have been reviewed on the basis of the scientific and technological improvements and progress. So we will focus our attention on the last one, the 17092, because this is a very successful story according to our understanding. So this standard was established 4 years ago, during the pandemic era, I would say, after many meetings of the working group within the CEN, 6 years of intense activity. Of course, take into account the basic principle that we have seen before from the regulation. The decision-making was based on the consensus criteria. This is very important. And let's see also the 4 bullet point, which I don't know if you all are aware of, but who are involved in the definition of a standard. Not only, of course, industry representative, but also people coming from the university, from the insurers, from the notifying body themselves, and from research centers. So many stakeholders around the creation and the definition of a standard, because the standards will become the reference for the legislation and for the market itself. So those are the three main new findings that have been included in this new 17092 standard for the protective clothing for motorcycles. The modular approach, we have created 6 parts. The first one is the toolbox for the test methods, and the rest of the parts, the 5 parts, describe the 5 new classes of protection, depending on the way in which the clothes is used and different types and classes of risk. A new zoning, we started from the previous standards, which was for 4 main zones of protection. We come up with 3 based on accidentologies. We analyzed the real facts, how in reality the clothes are used and how they manage to mitigate the risk of accidents. So 3 new zoning and a new abrasion test based on the Darmstadt more repeatable and representative methodology. Why we consider it a successful story? Because it changes dramatically what is happening on the markets. So before 2019, which is the key dates, there was a standard which was designed and defined for professional use basis, on the basis of a one-size-fits-all approach. So, I mean, the result was that on the market, we didn't have any CE-certified garments available for the final consumers. And the situation has dramatically changed in 2019, because with the new 17092, we have 5 classes of protection, with again, allowing for a modular strategy and approach. We have garments for all taste, use, and style of ridings and all weather conditions that you may encounter. We have had a very important information campaign, not only on the basis of the dealers' network or the sales channels, but also helped by the social network themselves, but also the motorcycle sectorial media. I have to look at the chronometer. What was the result? The result is that today we have users protected, informed, and conscious. I would say also that we have had a cultural achievement, a cultural change. People going for buying the certified protective garments at the shop are not obliged to. They go because they ask for certified products. So it's a cultural achievement. We were talking about airbags. Of course, at SEN level, there is a group that is developing the new standard for electronically activated airbags on the basis of different configuration of accident, from crashes to the high side falls and the low side falls. We were talking about inflation time. And of course, the one interesting thing is that the group is developing new triggering requirements based on evidence coming from analysis of video accidents coming, of course, from the racetracks. So we are using a considerable number of video analysis in order to assess the new triggering requirements, and of course also the risk of misfiring while using the airbag is under the attention of the group. I would like to underline the fact that the expected finalization of this standard for electronic activated airbags is expected not before the end of the next year, maybe also afterwards, because of course the SEN process requires certain period of time to be completed. I was referring to the market surveillance. This is crucial together with the CE certification, because otherwise we don't have control of what's happening on the markets. And of course, market surveillance is in the hand of the national authority. I would like also to underline the fact that we need to take into account not only the offline, but also the online sales, because from the online markets comes in the European market many non-certified garments. So all in all, also at the level of design and production, safety is considered a system achieved only through innovation in all those fields. For example, for the protection, we are inspired by the patterns that we see in nature. In terms of performance, we go for extreme conditions to be used in developing protective garments. And also, of course, styling is something that is very important. A snapshot on helmets. Of course, as for the garments, also for the helmets, there's not a perfect and absolute perfect and best helmets for all users. We have best for certain needs and use. Clearly, the full face and modular offer the total protection, clearly, and useless to say. But at the same time, the jet and demi-jet are very important. The same regulations recognize this, because in certain condition of use, let's imagine for countries where the temperatures are very high, the cooling of the heads and the claustrophobia and the possibility to have a limited view are all factors that have to be taken into account, especially for the less experienced people that use the vehicle. At a standardization level, we all know that we have had new elements included in the latest development of the standards. We have also included requirements for the accessories that are all, of course, spreading on the markets, from the communication devices to the cameras. So all these things are included in the new regulation that, again, is also for the jet and demi-jet helmets. The very last slide, I don't want to bother you any further. Of course, the market in Europe of the protective clothing for motorcycle is a very dynamic market. We have more than around 25,000 jobs in Europe. And as you can see on the right side of the slide, Spain, Italy, Germany are the country in Europe where this industry is very active and dynamic. And I have concluded. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Federico, for your presentation. Yeah, indeed, the market surveillance, as you said, is crucial. Recently, we get a news on the UK market that finally a judge incriminated an online retailers to do a fake advertisement on the products, but the way is very long in order to obtain a surveillance on the market, on the sales. I would like to conclude this panel with an anecdote that you will see why I'm saying that. As I said, that the FIM is sanctioning competition. Recently, 7 years ago, we put compulsory also the chest protector for the riders. And recently, we introduced a women world championship on circuit racing. And the first technical check that our technical steward did on the women riders, they realized that the women rider was putting the chest protector here on the belly. And so the technical steward said, but why do you put it here? I mean, you need to protect yourself. It's a chest protector. You don't have the lungs here, you have the lungs and ribs here. So this is an anecdote to tell you that if we go to the users and to the consumer, we have 53% of the world population that is composed by women. And I urge the manufacturers of motorcycles, I urge the manufacturers of protective equipment to take in consideration the diversity of the human body and the needs of the users, because very often we see young women riders that are excluded to choose the option of riding a motorcycle due to the age of the motorcycles, the non-availability of protective equipment. So I don't want to be paternalistic, but really, if we want to say that we want to protect the users, users are composed by men and women alike. It's not sufficient to put a little pink line on the jacket to say that it is for women. A professional rider being obliged to put the chest protector on the belly. Figure out on the road, figure out a mother that needs to go to pick up their kids, etc., etc. If we want to make a safe road for all, we need to take in consideration also this. I thank you very much all the panelists today. Thank you very much Montserrat, Chris, Raúl, and Federico. And sorry to keep it long before the coffee. Thank you very much.